What's going on, guys? This is Alex over here at My Freedom Smokes, and today we're going to be taking a little look at how to set up your eVOD and eGo style pins. These have actually been gaining a little bit more popularity lately simply because of the portability and the upgrades that they've received. Last time we did a video on this, it was a long time ago, so it's time for a redo. So, on to the first thing, knowing the difference between an eGo and a 510 thread. Most of your eGo style batteries are going to have two sets of threads on them. Your eGo threads, which are on the outside of the battery, and then your 510 threads that are on the inside of your battery. Now, most mods you get nowadays won't have the eGo threading, primarily the 510 threading. This is mainly because the eGo threading was really only popular with these eGo style pins. So since we are talking about the eGo style pins today, of course we're going to mention it. This is what an eGo tank looks like. It's got a flat base, a flat bottom, and on the inside is where the battery screws in, like so. On a 510 threaded tank, on the bottom you have the little bump right here and some threading, because that threading goes on the inside the 510 threading. You see? Now, of course, this seems a bit incomplete. There are extra things you can purchase like thread adapters that basically just kind of even up and give a little extra support down here. But for the sake of the video, I'm merely showing you the differences between the 510 and the eGo threading. Next, we're going to talk about battery functionality. Now, the two main things that you're going to see in your regular eGo style pins is either a standard voltage battery or a variable voltage battery. Most standard voltage batteries are going to look like this. It has a single button, no adjustments, nothing to really do. It's just a single click and inhale. A battery like this, say the Spinner 3, has a dial up here at the top. And if you look closely, there is a little notch right here. At the very top, there are your voltages. Simply just rotate that dial to set your voltage. Now, there are different versions like this. Some of them have the dial at the bottom. Some even have a button mashing where like a red light means a certain voltage, a blue light means a certain voltage. But these are going to be the most common of your variable voltage batteries. Next, we're going to talk about filling your tank. Now, most eVOD batteries that come with a tank are going to fill from the bottom, like so. You would remove the tank, then remove your base, get your liquid, and fill it up around the perimeter. Now, this tank, for instance, this is part of the top eVOD blister pack. This one, for instance, you can fill from the very top. You would unscrew it right here, and you'll have your holes right there for filling up your liquid. And then you would just place your cap right back on top, just like so. Same thing with, say, a tank like this. It could either unscrew from the top. I don't believe this one does. So for this one, you would unscrew it from the bottom, like so. Fill it up around the sides. Place your coil back in, and you're ready to go. Next, we're going to discuss replacement coils. The replacement coils are what heat up your e-liquid on the inside of your tank. Without this, your e-cigarette will not work. After a while, it also will get burnt. It will start tasting nasty. Because of that, they sell replacement heads. Replacement heads vary anywhere between about $8 to about $13 a pack. A pack for ones for these would cost you roughly $10 for a 5-pack. You'd simply grab it, unscrew like this, and pull it right out. Toss it to the side, grab you a new one, place it in, screw it in, and then refill your tank, put it back together. Now, anytime you are using one of these systems for the first time or putting a brand new coil in it, you will need to let it set for at least 10 to 15 minutes to ensure that that coil is fully saturated with your e-liquid. A lot of times people do put these coils in and not let it rest for a little bit. They take a hit and it tastes burnt. So they pull it out, put another one in, they don't wait any time, boom, and then it tastes burnt again. And they feel that it's a full defective pack of coils, when in reality, sometimes, if you allow it to soak up the liquid enough, you won't really hit that burnt mark. Now, if you do continue hitting dry hits or a burning taste, essentially what that really does mean is that your coil is dry. That can mean a number of things. Either the tank is too low full of liquid, the coil didn't have enough time to prime and fully saturate, or it could just be time for a new coil. It could just be spent. And at that point, that would be any reason to go ahead and trade out these coils and make sure you're getting a good, clean vape each time. Now, we're going to talk about charging. Your eVOD batteries can either charge one of two ways. It really depends on the make and model that you've selected. Either charge with a standard eGo charger or a micro USB cord, similar to something like you'd find on a PlayStation or Android phones. So first we're going to show you how to work the eVOD charger. First you're going to get it and you're going to plug it into an outlet or computer that has a USB, like so. Then you're going to get your battery. You're going to screw it in right here. Now, the light did flash here a little bit and the light shows green here. The light showing green here means that this battery is fully charged. Because we've never really used this one, we're using it for display purposes. But otherwise, it would show red, and while it's red, that means the battery is charging. Once it turns green, again, that means it's fully charged and you're ready to take it right off and start vaping. The second style that you may run across, as I mentioned before, is the micro USB. Most of the time these do come with chargers, but the Spinner 3 does not. But this one charges from the port on the bottom, like so. You just plug it straight in, and that red light means that it's charging. And I don't remember if the light's supposed to go off or turn green, but the light will change when it is fully charged. The cool thing about batteries like this is you can also vape while it's charging. Unlike this one where you have to unscrew it and put it on this charger, this battery you can continue to put on. Let's say I wanted to put this tank on it. Again, this is a 510 and eGo threaded battery, so why not? If I decide I want to put this tank on and vape, I can do it while it's charging. So that's just a few different ways that you can charge these eGo style batteries. So that is just a brief summary of how to use and take a look at your different eVOD pins. I do want to discuss a couple troubleshooting things because more often than not, these are the more inexpensive products, so sometimes they do need a little bit more finagling to make sure they continue to work right. One of the things I do hear a lot, especially with batteries like this, is once you refill it, it seems to be leaking or kind of getting in your mouth some. That's simply because the coil that's on the inside has absorbed too much liquid, or when you were filling it, it accidentally got a little bit in that airflow tube, so now you've got trapped liquid. The absolute easiest way I found to deal with that is to get a paper towel, or if you're not around anything special, just simply grab it and give it a little shake. You're literally forcing the liquid out through the drip tip. That way, next time you go to vape, you're not pulling in so much liquid, it's got some room to heat up, and you're gonna get a nice, smooth, clean vape. Now, the flip side to that again is if your replacement coil is starting to go bad, you can also get some leakage from that too. So if you've been vaping for a long time and it just now seems to be leaking and kind of shooting in your mouth, if shaking it out really doesn't work too well, maybe try replacing the coil in it. And again, let me reiterate, when replacing the coil, make sure to wait at least about 10 to 15 minutes before trying to vape on it, or you will probably get a nasty dry hit. The important thing to realize also is that with your replacement coils, not every coil fits every single tank. Let's just say you have an iPhone, okay? If you were to go out and buy a charger for that, you wouldn't buy a Samsung charger. That's not gonna work. Or if you were to go out, if you have a Samsung phone, you wouldn't buy an iPhone case. It's not gonna fit. Same concept with replacement coils. If you have a Kanger coil, if you have a Kanger tank, more than likely it's going to be another Kanger coil that fits inside. Now, a lot of the times on the backs of the packages, they'll give you the exact specifications of which coils to use. If not, you can always reach out to us, or a simple Google search will show you exactly which coils you need. But again, we are always here to help you with any questions you may have, including more troubleshooting for this. Now, we're going to discuss the type of e-liquids we can use in these eGo vape pens. Now, there's a bunch of style e-liquids out there, and even a lot of people that have been vaping a long time don't understand the differences between PG and VG. So a quick little summary on that. PG is propylene glycol. It's going to be the thinner of the two. It gives you a little bit more of a throat hit, and that's what a lot of flavorings are using as their base because it really carries that flavor. Your VG, vegetable glycerin, that's going to be the thicker of the two. It's not quite as much of a throat hit, and you get a lot more clouds from it. But remember, it is thicker. Because of that, you really won't be able to use a VG liquid in these style units. The difference is because, say, a tank like this. If we look, the juice flow holes really aren't that big. So the thinner the liquid, the better this coil is going to absorb it. If it's thicker, it might get a little air pocket right there. It may have trouble fully absorbing into that tightly packed coil. So that might be an issue. Let's go ahead and look at this coil. Now see this one, even though the holes aren't quite bigger, there are more of them. So a lot of times you'll really need to examine your coil to see exactly which style liquid to use. More often than not though, in these style pens you're going to want to use a PG based e-liquid. The reason being is that it's thinner, it's going to absorb into these coils better, and you're not really going to get a dry hit. Now, if you are listening to this and you understand your PG-VG ratios, sometimes you can go up to a 50%, 50-50. Now, you will sometimes run the risk of a little bit of a dry hit with that, but a lot of people do prefer that because you get a little bit more cloud, but it's still thin enough for these type tanks to really absorb it. So just keep that in mind when picking out your e-liquids for these eGo style vape pens. So just remember, when going into this big vaping world, there are many different things to pick from, but you know, at the end of the day, sometimes an old tried and true eGo vape pen just really does the trick. Especially if you are just trying to get away from smoking cigarettes and looking for that alternative, I really feel that this is probably the right step to go in. And an honorable mention with all of these is the iCare. Now the reason I'm bringing up the iCare is everything I just mentioned, aside from being able to replace the tanks, works with this. It has replacement coils. You charge it through the micro USB port, and if this starts to get a little flooded, just simply shake it out. A lot of everything that I've shown you is going to be interchangeable between different mods and batteries and tanks. So it wouldn't matter if you have a tank that looks like this or a tank that looks like this. You would need to make sure and get the coils that match up with the brand name of your tank, and to make sure that your tank fits on your battery. It's as simple as that. So if we do have any other questions, feel free to ask them below. And until next time, thank you for vaping with us.